I'm Larry London, and today we are going to be talking about the number one question that I have ever been asked in drum lessons. Where did I get this jacket? No. The number one question is, how much should I practice? Number one question. And what I did is I wrote a book of all the top questions that I've ever been asked in drum lessons. And we're talking about drum lessons since 1982. I've been teaching over 1,000 people. And what I did is I kept a journal and I just would write down everybody's question. I just thought, maybe I'm just a drum geek, but I just thought this would be really something fun for me to do. I just write down their question. Somebody would come in and say, how do I tune a drum? And I would pull out my notebook and I would say, oh, that's really interesting. That is you're the 47th person to ever ask me that. That's the number 2 question that I've ever been asked. And I would just keep track of these things. Well, after a while, you start realizing there's about 100 questions that everybody of every age and gender and experience type, they all ask these 100 questions. And so I took the top 100 questions and I put them in my book. Great Start Answers, everything you need to know about drum sets, the top 100 questions. But today we're just going to be talking about one question: how much should I practice? How much should I practice is the number one question that every student asked me, that every parent asked me. It is the question that everybody wants to know because they want to know how much work they're going to have to do to be really great at drumming, or not, or just decide that they don't want to do it. So today we're going to discuss this number one question, and here's how I go about thinking about it. I take student A and I take student B, and student A is 14 and student B is 14, and student A practices 1 hour a day for a year. 1 hour every day. It's 14. Student B practices 7 hours a day for a year. They're 14. So when student A gets done with their year, student B gets done with their year, student A would have to practice 6 more years to catch up to student B. Student A has only practiced 1 hour a day for a year. Student B practiced 7 hours a day, 7 times more. So that means that student A, who's 14, would have to wait until they practice till they're 21 to catch up to what student B did by the time they were 15. You go the next step and you say student A practiced for 7 years, from 14 until they're 21, at an hour a day, and student B practiced for 7 years at 7 hours a day. That means he's practiced 49 years worth of practice of the hour a day person. That basically means that anybody who would put in concentrated time 7 hours a day for 7 years would really be untouchable, because somebody practicing an hour a day would never catch up. It'd be like 63 years old. It would never catch up. So concentrated effort is everything to me. Now, I can't tell somebody how much to practice, but there are 2 questions that you have to ask yourself. 1, how good do I want to be? How good do I want to be is the theme to my entire series. There's 10 books, 3 companion books, including this one, The Great Start Answers. I would suggest that you buy them all and study them. Every student I've ever had has passed all their auditions. This changed my life, is to be able to do this. So the number one question is, how good do I want to be? Well, when I ask myself that, I can't answer that for you, but for me, when I ask myself that, it's very, very simple. I want to be as good as I can be. Period. I just want to be as great as I can possibly be. Doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. I'm not in competition with anybody else. It's me versus me. So if I can get the best of me, that is the win that I'm looking for. number one question, how good do I want to be? I want to be as good as I want to be. Now, you're going to have to answer that for yourself about where you are. Some people just want to be good enough to play along with a song. They want to be good enough to enjoy drumming on their own, or they want to be good enough to play with a group of guys occasionally, kick around some songs. And then some people want to be good enough to be in a band, they want to teach, they want to do clinics, they want to change the world. I'm the weird kind of guy who actually says, hey, if somebody asks me, how good do I want to be? What do you want to do with drumming? And I would say, I want to make drum history. So I'm just built that way. But you have to ask yourself this question, how good do you want to be? And then, number two question, how long do I want it to take? I want to be great right now. That's my problem. That propels me to practice. Yeah, then I'm not going by the clock, and I'm not going by some arbitrary sort of system of whatever these... Every instructor I ever had told me the same thing. Just practice an hour a day, you'll be fine. Gary Chafee is a celebrated drum instructor author from Berkeley, and he said in one of his videos, in his very, very dry sort of way, he said, they asked him, you know, how much do you have to practice to be good? And he said, look, if you're not practicing 4 hours a day, you could just forget ever being great. Now, I'd never heard anybody ever draw a line like that. They always just said something ambiguous, like you need to practice as much as you can, or, you know, give it your all, do your best. But this 4-hour line really stuck with me. And I really don't think that anybody can really truly be great and not practice 4 hours. You can be competent, you can be good, but to be world-changing great, so that for some reason set in my mind a certain amount of time. Now, I actually believe that the more time you spend, the better you are. I like the approach of I like to spend a great deal of time wisely approach. So I get the best material I can, I get the best system I can of learning it. Right now I'm learning everything in 15-minute blocks. I'm doing these 276 grooves. Each one I do for 15 minutes. 15 minutes to the next, 15 next. I go through all 276 and I start back over. I'm doing them 10 times, 15 minutes, because every time I come around at the same problem, I see it a little differently. You just see it a little differently, and you practice it a little differently, a little deeper. So that's my system of learning. I just try to spend as much time as I can. Now, you have to decide that on your own. How much practice is enough practice for you? You still have to ask those questions. How good do I want to be? And how long do I want it to take? Two questions that will decide every day about your drumming life, about how much you will actually put into it. I like the quote that says, we love what we do, and if we are watching TV all day and you're just talking about sports or politics or something else, then that is what you love. Then drumming is not what you love. But when drumming is what you love, it will be the thing that will drive your day. And so if these questions are at the top of your day, I would write them down, put them by your bed somewhere when you wake up, and it just says, how good do I want to be? How long do I want it to take? Those are the two key motivators for me. Number one question. So I can't tell you how much to practice, but I can tell you that if you can answer those two questions every day, it will solve that dilemma of how much you should practice. And at the end of the day, you'll be satisfied that you did the best you could to answer those two questions. It's so cool for you guys to join me as I walk through these 50 videos or so of basic philosophy of how I framed in myself to be an effectual learner. I wrote this book, Great Start Answers, as a companion guide to the entire series, which there's 10 in the series that go through all the meters and everything. There are demonstration tracks on my YouTube channel, which is at Larry London Drummer. And I would suggest that you go check those out. We have full transcriptions that are going to be available. Buy the series, implement it into your life, and it will change your life just like it did mine. It will make it so that you can be free to access all of these ideas as fast as you can think of them because you have studied in such a way to get there. Best to us all. Remember, my number one quote is, discipline is remembering what you want.